No nanny lasted with the Millionaire's Triplets until a black maid did the impossible. The grand estate stood like a fortress, immaculate white walls, black iron gates, fountains that sparkled in the sun, but inside it was a different kind of war zone. Shattered vases, crayon-streaked walls, a half-eaten banana squashed into a designer rug, and 3 children, triplets, each just 4 years old, yet each a hurricane in their own right. 2 boys and a girl, blonde, blue-eyed, dressed in matching beige sweaters, raced through the marble halls like wild animals. Screams echoed. Something crashed. A maid quit that morning. Again. It was the 6th nanny in 5 months. Their father, Mr. Andrew Whitaker, a sharp-suited, cold-eyed white millionaire in his late 30s, had stopped bothering to remember the names of the help. His face rarely softened since his wife died 2 years ago. Instead, he buried himself in meetings, international flights, and stock tickers, leaving the care of his triplets to anyone desperate enough to try. They called them the terrors behind closed doors. No one had lasted more than 7 days. And then she arrived. Loretta, a 32-year-old black woman with tired eyes and steady hands, stepped out of the cab in a Navy maid uniform, no suitcase, just a canvas bag over her shoulder and silence wrapped around her like armor. She hadn't come to be a nanny. She applied for cleaning work, but the agency sent her anyway because no one else would take it. The housekeeper, an older woman with nervous eyes, pulled her aside before she met the kids. They bite, all 3 of them. They pour juice into laptop ports. One set the oven on fire with crayons. Loretta just nodded. I've handled worse. She hadn't. Not like this. The moment she entered the playroom, a juice box flew past her head. "New lady!" one of the boys screamed. "She looks boring." "Can I lock her in the closet?" The girl giggled, her blonde curls bouncing. Loretta didn't flinch. She didn't scold. She kneeled down, met their eyes, and said calmly, "My name is Miss Loretta, and I'm not going anywhere. So let's get through today without anyone bleeding." They blinked. No one had spoken to them like that. For 2 hours, she tried to engage them. They screamed, threw puzzles, drew on her shoes. One dumped cold spaghetti on her shoulder, but Loretta stayed. When bedtime came, she helped brush their teeth, despite one biting her thumb, and hummed an unfamiliar lullaby as they fidgeted in bed. By 11 p.m., all 3 were finally asleep, together. The housekeeper stood in the hallway, stunned. "You stayed?" Loretta gave a tired smile. "They're just loud pain. I know that sound." The next day was worse. One boy locked her in the linen closet, while the other smeared butter across the kitchen floor. The little girl took a pair of scissors and cut the ears off all the stuffed animals. Still, Loretta didn't raise her voice. She cleaned, listened, cooked. By day 4, something shifted. One child handed her a drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands. One had brown skin and a smile. On day 5, she heard laughter, not manic, chaotic noise, but genuine, bubbling joy. The triplets sat cross-legged as Loretta read a story about dragons, and they leaned into her like they'd known her forever. Meanwhile, Andrew noticed. He watched from his office security cams. For the first time, he paused his work to see what magic this woman had used. He expected bribery or manipulation, but all he saw was patience and presence. Still, he didn't trust it. On day 7, Loretta took the children outside, just to the garden, a gentle walk, fresh air. But she hadn't asked, And Andrew, returning from a board meeting, furious from a failed merger, saw the cameras showing his children running on the lawn with this woman, this maid. No permission, no notice. He slammed the car door and marched toward the house, eyes blazing. Inside, Loretta had just brought the kids in, muddy shoes but happy hearts. They sat on the couch, snuggled into blankets, watching a cartoon. Loretta was brushing the girl's hair, singing softly. The front door creaked. Andrew entered, his polished shoes clicking against the marble, his jaw tight, words forming before his brain had time to catch up. Then he stopped. What he saw made his breath catch. All three children were curled up on Loretta's lap. One boy was fast asleep, arms wrapped around her waist. The girl rested her head on Loretta's chest, holding a corner of her dress. The third boy stirred slightly and whispered something that made Andrew's heart lurch. "Mama!" Loretta froze. She hadn't noticed him standing there yet. Andrew's world went silent. He came in ready to fire her. Now he couldn't move. Andrew stood frozen in the marble entryway, his hand still clenching the handle of his briefcase, knuckles white. His mind, once filled with fury, was now utterly blank, wiped clean by the sight in front of him. His three children, the ones who hadn't sat still or smiled in over a year, were now huddled in the lap of a woman they'd known for only a week. The same woman he had planned to fire moments ago. He heard it again. "Mama!" The whisper came from his youngest son, still half asleep, his face buried into Loretta's side. The word hit Andrew like a slap and a hug all at once. A painful reminder of the woman he lost, and a shock that someone else had unknowingly stepped into that sacred space. Loretta slowly looked up and saw him. Her eyes widened for a moment. Then gently, she slid the children onto the couch and stood, brushing a crayon off her skirt. "I was going to come find you," she said quietly, hands folded in front of her. "We went to the garden. I know I should have asked first." Andrew blinked. His voice came slower than usual. "You took them out, and they came back calm. They need the sun," she said, "and someone to believe they're not broken." The room was still. A wall clock ticked. One of the children snored softly. Andrew walked a few steps closer, looking at the children, then at her. "How did you do this?" he asked. "No one lasted more than a few days. They screamed, hit, cursed." "They were hurting," Loretta interrupted gently, "not misbehaving. Children don't destroy what they don't believe is already broken. They just reflect what they feel." Andrew's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in thought. He glanced again at the couch. His daughter had pulled Loretta's scarf into her arms like a blanket. "They called you?" he started. "I know," Loretta whispered, eyes lowering. "It just slipped out. I didn't mean for it to. I know that name belongs to someone else." Andrew's throat tightened. The room suddenly felt smaller, heavier. "She died right there," he said, pointing faintly toward the kitchen archway. "Collapsed while cutting apples. Aneurysm. No warning. One moment she was smiling, and the next—" He stopped, took a breath. "They saw it, all of them." Loretta's eyes watered. "No one ever told me. No one ever asked." There was a pause, a long one. Then Loretta stepped closer and said, "I know what it's like to lose someone that way. My son, he was 5. I made the mistake of thinking I had time. I promised him I'd come back after my shift ended, but I never got to say goodbye." Andrew stared at her, stunned. Loretta had never shared this with anyone in the house. She didn't wear her grief on her sleeve, but it bled quietly into everything she did. The way she held the children, how she never yelled even when they screamed in her face, how she listened to their silence more than their words. "I didn't come here to be a nanny," she continued. "I just needed to work. But then I saw the way they looked at me. Not like a stranger, like they were waiting." Andrew sank slowly into a chair, running a hand through his hair. "I thought giving them space was what they needed," he said. "I thought if I stayed away, they'd toughen up, learn to move on." Loretta shook her head gently. "Children don't move on. They carry everything. They just need someone willing to carry it with them." The clock chimed softly. Andrew looked at the children again. They were still asleep, still peaceful. "They haven't called anyone that in 2 years," he said quietly. Loretta's voice cracked just a little. "Then I'll tell them not to." "No," Andrew replied, almost too fast, then slower. "No, don't take it from them. If that's what they feel, let it be." Silence again. Then he stood. "I can't pay you enough for what you've done this week," he said. "I'm not here for the money," Loretta replied. Andrew smiled slightly. For the first time in years, his face looked human again, warm. "Then stay." Loretta blinked. "As what? Maid? Nanny?" He looked at the children, then back at her. "As the only person they trust, whatever that means." Loretta felt her chest rise, her breath catching. "I'm not trying to replace her," she said softly. "No one could, but maybe you could help them remember her in peace." The front door stood open now, letting in golden afternoon light. Suddenly, the smallest boy stirred, rubbed his eyes, and called out sleepily, "Mama?" Loretta stepped forward, kneeling beside him. She held his hand gently. "I'm right here, baby." The boy smiled and closed his eyes again. Andrew didn't correct him. Not this time. And as Loretta reached for a blanket to cover them all, he realized something that no merger, no investment, no empire could offer: peace. For the first time since his wife's death, his house felt like a home again. If this story touched your heart, give it a like. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from.